Richard II, I wasted time and now does time waste me? Okay. Another subject, madness. Right? What exactly is madness? Right? It's first one we see the normal way in which we use it, someone who is going out of his mind, right? Okay. Well, at which point does Lear go out of his mind? You can say he goes out of his mind in Act 1, Scene 1, right? Ken says to him, "What dost thou do, old man?" You know, you're crazy in what you're doing, right there. And it's not only the division of the kingdom, but you're just failing to see the truth, right? And then he does, in fact, go out of his mind. He loses his reason, right? So that's one, what we normally would refer to as madness, incoherence, clarity of mind, right? The other form of madness is being obsessed by one thing. The daughters, the daughters, the daughters, right? When he first sees poor Tom, what, have his daughters brought him to this pass, right? Nothing in nature could have brought him to this pass but pelican daughters. Right? Okay. So that obsession with the daughters and the cruelty of the daughters, right? Then it's a loss of patience, a loss of the ability to bear things. Oh, let me not be mad, not mad, dear heavens. Patience I need, right? So madness is the inability to bear reality, right? Also, right? And then, of course, we have the assumed madness of poor Tom, which poor Tom ascribes, again, we haven't, I wish we could read more of the text, but poor Tom, in describing how he fell to this, he's naked, right? He's naked. He's one of those poor, naked wretches that Lear finally begins to pray for, right? Okay. And it's when, at that moment of self-knowledge of Lear, right, when before entering the hovel, he says, you know, first I'll pray. And what is his prayer? Right? Poor naked wretches, wheresoe'er you be, right, that bide the pelting of this terrible storm. Right? How may your whatever, right? And finally he says, sorry, oh, I have ta'en too little care of this, right? It's the one moment when Lear perceives his failure as a king, right? Not his failure as a father, right? And it's at that moment that Tom emerges, and he's one of those poor naked wretches, right? He's naked, except, as the fool says, nay, he's reserved a blanket, else were we all shamed, right? Okay, so he's wrapped in a blanket, that's all, right? And presumably his lower parts, else were we all shamed, right? When poor Tom explains, well, Lear asks him, what art thou? Poor Tom, Edgar, explains madness by saying, I committed all the deadly sins. If you look at that speech later, perhaps we'll have time. He goes one by one, pride, envy, sloth, everything, right? And how he committed them. So Edgar has this concept that what drives a person mad is his own sins, right? Okay? It is a failure to abide by law, God's given laws in this case, right? Okay. Not man's laws. Okay. That's what underlies Edgar. Edgar is a very, in a way, well, what is Edgar? What do you think? He's very gullible. He's just like his father. He believes Edmund. Right? Why? Right? Well, he trusts everybody. Edmund himself says, right, a brother who is so far from doing evil that he suspects none. Right? He himself would never commit evil, so he's incapable of even conceiving that anyone should deliberately want to do him harm, right? Okay? So there's that stupidity, the madness, and yet, right, when it comes to being poor Tom, Edgar seems to have a perspicacity which, as Edgar himself, he lacks. Right? So where is madness? What is madness? How does the same person perceive of madness? And of course the real madness of Lear, in which he nevertheless finally perceives the truth. And another topic, and then of course, let's say we have the feigned madness and we have the professional folly of the fool, right? The fool is one of the people in the play who speaks the most sanely, but speaks in riddles, who points out the truth, who says to Lear, here, takes my coxcomb, right, because you're the fool, right? I'll tell you who you are, right? Like, what was your folly? You broke the egg in half, right? And you're left with the two crowns, but the rest has dropped, is empty. That's what you're left with. Right? And constantly the fool was, as at one point Lear says, this is a bitter fool. Right? But the fool tells the truth. The fool perceives, nevertheless, I said before, truths. He's also truths a dog must to kennel. Right? Truth, because both Lear and Gonard, the daughters, threaten him with the whip. Right? Okay. I wonder what kin thou art, he asks Lear. You'd have me whipped for telling the truth, they have me whipped for lying. No, whichever way. I would rather be anything than a fool. Right? Okay. So the fool is actually wise, but people, it is professional duty, as it were, to speak in riddles, to speak foolishly, not to the point, irrationally. Think of the role of clowns in almost every respect, right? The clown who so often is actually the one that you can say, well, perhaps he's getting to the truth. And certainly this is true with the professional fool. I've already spoken about language, and let me just come then by way of my closure. As I say, I'd love to take you through the play. Perhaps we'll still do some of that, but I want now to get to that final point of the nothing, right? And the repetition. From the nothing which sets that terrible, tragic wheel rolling down the hill, right? Okay. In an unstoppable manner. So the nothing is there from the very beginning. Now let's just go through some of it. I'd like to go straight, actually, to the last scene. As I said before, I think that the central trope of this play is not the question, but the answer, which is nothing. Let's just look at the very, very, very end. Let's take it from Enter Lear with Cordelia in his arms, which, by the way, is one of the stage instructions which is in the original quarto. So it was a directive to the actors, right, what has to happen at this point in the play. Howl, 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 howl. Oh, you are men of stones. Had I your tongues and eyes, I'd use them so that heaven's vault should crack. She's gone forever. I know when one is dead and when one lives. She's dead as earth. Lend me a looking glass. If that her breath will mist or stain the stone, why then she lives. Is this the promised end, or image of that horror? Fall and cease. These are the comments, right? Now, I know when one is dead, and yet there's still the uncertainty. This feather stirs. She lives. If it be so, it is a chance which does redeem all sorrows that ever I have felt. O my good master, prithee away, 'tis noble Kent, your friend. A plague upon you, murderers, traitors all. I might have saved her, now she's gone forever. Cordelia, Cordelia, stay a little. Ha, what is't thou sayest? Her voice was ever soft, gentle and low, an excellent thing in woman. Now, right, think of that and his initial response to her, nothing, right? I killed the slave that was a-hanging thee. 'Tis true, my lords, he did. Did I not, fellow? I have seen the day with my good biting falchion, I would have made them skip. I'm old now, and these same crosses spoil me. Who are you? Mine eyes are not to the best, I'll tell you straight. And then there comes a sort of semi-recognition of Kent, right? All's Kent's comment is, all's cheerless, dark, and deadly. Right? And then let's skip and to his the last speeches. And my poor fool is hanged. No, no, no life. Why should a dog, a horse, a rat have life, and thou no breath at all? Thou'lt come no more. Never, 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 never. And then this extraordinary, pray you undo this button. Which button? You remember when he sees poor Tom and says to poor Tom, "These three of us are sophisticated, thou art the thing itself." And then starts, off you lendings, right? And the fool stops him, right? In other words, this, he feels the naked. At that point, he wants to strip off his clothes, right? He too wants to be like Tom, poor, unaccommodated man, right? The thing itself, right? Is this an echo of that desire to strip? One version that I've seen, which I don't accept, but I think there's just a vague possibility, you could perhaps do it. And fascinating to think how you produce this right? The power of the words here, the repetition, this extraordinary repetition of the never, 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 never. Nothing, my Lord. Right? Okay. Nothing shall come of nothing. Okay. But then, could it be a button that fastens Cordelia's collar? That by opening that button, they will be giving her breath, bringing her back to life? It's a possibility. We don't know. This is something to think about. Of course, I think it's much more powerful if Lear is unable. Here's this man totally helpless. Or is it because he's holding Cordelia in his arms? This is a point where an actor or a director has to consider what is happening at this point with Lear. You've got to decide. If you're acting the play, you have to decide what is going to happen at this point. Right? the next lines also demand an interpretation. Do you see this? First of all, of course, before they undo this button, thank you, sir. You know, that simplicity is actually thanking someone for doing something for him, right? Do you see this? Look on her. Look her lips. Look there. Look there. Okay, now, what is he referring to? Look there, look there. Does it mean look on her lips? Does it mean, no, she's dead? Right? Or does it mean, oh, look, she's still alive? Right? Okay. Perhaps if it's her button that was unbuttoned, right? Look. I heard one extraordinary interpretation. I unfortunately never saw it. Given by an actor called Tony Church, who was a veteran in the Royal Shakespeare, and in his time had played the Fool, Gloucester, Edgar, and King Lear himself. So he knew the play, right? Okay. And he gave a talk on it at the university. And he described one production at which Lear turns the body of Cordelia to the audience and says to the audience, look there, right? Okay. In other words, he is confronting the audience, right, with this tremendous, searing tragedy. Look what's happened. You, the audience, you, the public, we, the people, right? What have we done to the one good thing in this world? Right? What do we do? What is the cause? Right? So it's not a question. It's a statement. This is, I think, a totally nihilistic play. Right? Nothing. It's a wiping out of everything. It's a wiping out of life. It's the people who are left are Edgar, second, third rate. We that are young shall never see so much nor live so long. Right? Never, even at the end. Right? And I think for me, it's that total nihilism, for me, that emerges from the play, is, I think, a play that is ultimately, I know it's disputable, and perhaps this is now my very personal response to it, but it is a play for me which reflects the wiping out of humanity. The wiping out of humanity. And I think that as I contemplate the world today, right, as I read the newspapers, right, I ask myself, weiman, where does this evil come from? What is it in nature makes these hard hearts? How is it possible? How is it possible that people should do what they do? Right? Where are the gods? Where is there a God? Is there a God? Right? What controls us? We ourselves, our own deeds? Right? What is it? There is no answer. The answer is nothing. No thing. No. Never, 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 never. And I'll read the play.